They say grown-up problems should never reach the ears of children, but what happens when reality TV turns those problems into public headlines? In Love and Marriage, Huntsville, one mother is facing a nightmare she never saw coming. LaTisha Scott says her kids were teased at school, mocked over rumors that their dad was cheating. But here's the twist. Instead of blaming her husband, she's pointing the finger at Melody Shari. And now, everyone's asking the same question. Did Melody really fuel the gossip? Or is LaTisha refusing to face the truth about her own marriage? Because behind the smiles and shade, this feud just got painfully real. They say grown-up issues should never reach the ears of children, but in Love and Marriage, Huntsville, even the youngest seem caught in the crossfire. Picture this. Your kids walk through the door after school, their faces heavy with confusion, asking if the rumors about their dad's affair are true. And instead of turning your anger toward your husband, you find yourself blaming another woman entirely. That's exactly the storm LaTisha Scott is facing. She's directing her frustration at Melody Shari after her children were allegedly teased about Maro's supposed infidelity. But here's the question that has everyone talking. Why is Melody being held responsible? Why not the swirl of online gossip? Or even Maro himself? The truth runs deeper than a single accusation. Behind this emotional clash lies a tangled web of hurt, history, and unresolved tension. Because in the world of reality TV, especially on a show like Love and Marriage, Huntsville, the drama doesn't fade when the camera's cut. What begins as a disagreement can stretch into years of silent resentment, viral arguments, and fractured friendships played out for millions to witness. And now, this latest chapter between LaTisha and Melody feels different. More personal, more painful. This time, it's not just about public shade or messy secrets. It's about the impact those choices have on innocent hearts. For months, whispers have circled around Maro Scott's name. Rumors of infidelity that date all the way back to the early days of Love and Marriage, Huntsville. From questionable getaways to mysterious photos and those infamous boys' trips, the speculation has never truly faded. But what's catching everyone off guard now is who LaTisha believes set those rumors ablaze. And surprisingly, it's not the blogs, gossip pages, or even Maro himself. LaTisha is pointing the finger squarely at her longtime rival, Melody Shari. In her view, it's Melody's cryptic posts, sly remarks, and subtle shade that have kept the cheating talk alive. And according to LaTisha, that ongoing chatter has reached a heartbreaking new level, affecting her children in ways no mother should ever have to witness. Reports suggest the Scott kids were recently teased at school, mocked about their father's alleged affair, and LaTisha says it all stems from Melody's words. But here's where things get complicated. Melody is standing firm, insisting she's being unfairly accused. She claims she never stated Maro was unfaithful, only that the truth always comes to light. So, where does the line get drawn? Did Melody's comments unintentionally add fuel to the fire? Or is LaTisha using her as a scapegoat to avoid confronting painful truths within her marriage? In today's breakdown, we're diving deep into what sparked this emotional showdown. The years of tension between the two women, the fan reactions, and what insiders are revealing about who's really at fault. Because beneath the surface of reality TV drama lies something far more raw, a story of pride, pain, and the heavy cost of living your life in the public eye. And trust me, by the time you hear what reportedly happened behind the scenes, you'll see why this situation has everyone talking. Behind closed doors, the truth about LaTisha Scott and Melody Shari might completely change how you see them both. These two women weren't just random castmates thrown together for entertainment. They once shared real friendship, ambition, and sisterhood. When Love and Marriage, Huntsville first premiered, LaTisha and Melody stood as symbols of unity. They were educated, driven, and married to men who were building legacies of their own. Melody and Martell Holt were the power couple behind Holt & Holt, while LaTisha and Maro Scott managed Scott Construction and the upscale Black Cigar Lounge. Together, they embodied everything the show was created to highlight: Black excellence, strong family values, and entrepreneurship. But as every reality TV fan knows, what glitters on screen often hides deeper cracks. What started as minor disagreements slowly evolved into something much more personal. The breaking point came when Melody's marriage began to unravel under the weight of Martell's very public cheating scandal, a bombshell that would go on to become one of the show's most infamous storylines. As Melody's heartbreak played out before millions, she started speaking more candidly about infidelity and the struggle she saw in other marriages around her. Though she never mentioned names directly, her comments carried a sharp edge, subtle but suggestive enough to spark speculation. During one reunion special, she hinted that Maro Scott might not be as innocent as he appeared. Later, She cryptically remarked that some husbands on stage had a lot to lose if their side stories ever came to light. That single statement sent social media into a frenzy. Fans began piecing together clues, dissecting every word, and pointing fingers. And from that moment, the tension between Melody and LaTisha was no longer just personal. It became a public feud watched by the world. The whispers didn't stay whispers for long. Once Melody dropped those subtle hints, fans went into detective mode, speculating, connecting dots, and spreading theories. Blogs began digging through old footage and posts, and before anyone could contain it, Mauro Scott's name was trending, now linked to affair rumors he's continued to deny to this day. For LaTisha, this wasn't just idle gossip. It was a deep, personal betrayal. In her eyes, Melody, someone she once called a friend, had gone too far. What used to be mutual respect and support turned into cold distance, and eventually, open hostility. Every on-screen interaction between them became tense, a verbal battleground laced with shade, sarcasm, and unspoken resentment. The worst part, none of it was private. This wasn't a quiet falling out behind closed doors. It was a feud broadcast to millions, amplified by social media. And as with any public dispute, the fan bases took sides. Melody's supporters praised her for being honest, for refusing to protect men accused of cheating. LaTisha's fans, on the other hand, saw Melody's words as cruel, accusing her of tearing down another woman's marriage simply because her own had crumbled. What started as friendship had transformed into something much darker, a fight over pride, loyalty, and respect. And with every new rumor about Mauro's alleged affairs, true or not, LaTisha felt another blow to her family, another reason to view Melody not as a former friend, but as an enemy. But this is where the story takes a heartbreaking turn, because what began as a clash between two women has now spilled far beyond them, dragging their families, and especially their children, into the chaos. What happened next was something no one could have imagined. The tension between LaTisha and Melody was no longer confined to the set. It had made its way into their homes, touching the people who should have been off limits, their children. For a long time, LaTisha tried to stay composed. Every time a fresh rumor about Mauro's alleged infidelity surfaced online, she smiled for the cameras, brushed off the gossip, and focused on protecting her family. In interviews, she often insisted she trusted her husband and refused to feed into social media lies. But even the strongest woman has a breaking point, and for LaTisha, that moment came when the whispers stopped targeting adults and started wounding her kids. According to multiple reports and social media discussions, LaTisha shared that her children were recently teased at school. Their classmates had apparently overheard or seen the ongoing chatter about their father's alleged affair. Some kids even taunted them with cruel questions. Is your dad really cheating? Or we saw your family on TV. Is that true? For any parent, hearing that would be heartbreaking. But for someone living under constant public scrutiny, where every disagreement, rumor, or post becomes headline material, it cuts even deeper. During an emotional live stream and later interviews, LaTisha spoke through tears, saying she never wanted her children to suffer for mistakes or misunderstandings made by adults. Yet somehow, they had been pulled into the storm. And what hurt most was who she believed started it all. In LaTisha's eyes, the person responsible for fueling this toxic environment wasn't the bloggers or random trolls. It was her longtime rival, Melody Shari. According to LaTisha, Melody's relentless shade and suggestive remarks had kept the rumors alive long enough for them to reach the ears of her children, turning private pain into public humiliation. Over the years, Melody's subtle hints and cryptic remarks about infidelity in Huntsville seemed to do more than spark conversation. They kept long-standing rumors alive. Even without naming names, fans quickly pieced together her comments, and the dots often led straight back to Mauro and LaTisha's marriage. To LaTisha, this was far from harmless shade. It was reckless. She reportedly told those close to her that Melody's decision to continually bring up cheating husbands and unfaithful men wasn't just messy, it was damaging. In her eyes, Melody's words turned her husband into an easy target and, by extension, exposed their children to unnecessary ridicule. During one emotional statement, LaTisha expressed her breaking point, saying, "I don't care what happens between grown folks, that's between us. But when you start saying things that make my kids a topic at school, that's when I draw the line. Kids should never be part of the mess." Her words resonated deeply and divided fans. Some wholeheartedly agreed, arguing that children should always be shielded from adult drama. Others, however, believed LaTisha's anger might be misplaced, that instead of blaming Melody, she should confront the rumors themselves and address Mauro's alleged behavior. Melody, for her part, didn't fully back down. Responding indirectly, she reminded everyone that she never mentioned Mauro by name and insisted she couldn't be held responsible for how the public chose to interpret her comments. Melody maintained that she never mentioned Mauro's name and argued that public figures, especially those in the spotlight, must take responsibility for how their own actions appear to the world. Still, the damage had already been done. The tension between the two women had become so personal, so emotionally charged, that fans could sense there was no turning back. Behind the scenes, several cast members reportedly stepped in, hoping to mediate and encourage a private sit-down for the sake of their children. But with years of shade, accusations, and public embarrassment already on record, any chance of reconciliation seemed slim. At this point, the situation had moved far beyond gossip. It was about pride, motherhood, and the emotional toll of living under public judgment. LaTisha felt her family's image had been stained, her children's peace disturbed, and at the center of it all was a woman she once called a friend, Shari. Yet as social media debates grew louder, something unexpected began happening. Fans took it upon themselves to play investigator, digging up old interviews, unseen clips, and early episodes to uncover the truth. Did Melody ever truly accuse Mauro of cheating? Or had her comments simply been stretched and twisted by viewers and bloggers over time? And that's where the million-dollar question emerged. Did Shari actually start the Mauro-Scott cheating rumors, or did the internet do what it does best, turning a spark into a wildfire? To answer that, we need to rewind to the early seasons of Love and Marriage, Huntsville, when Melody's own marriage to Martell Holt was falling apart before the cameras. At that time, Melody was raw, heartbroken, and publicly humiliated by Martell's affair, emotions that would shape everything she said and did in the years to come. At that time, Melody's frustration wasn't only directed at Martell. She was also disappointed in the couples around her, many of whom she believed had ignored warning signs or even enabled his behavior. During interviews and confessionals, she began making pointed remarks that suggested infidelity wasn't unique to her marriage. She spoke broadly about unfaithful men in Huntsville, wives who chose to turn a blind eye, and even hinted that some of the very people judging her should take a closer look at their own relationships. Though Melody never mentioned names, fans were paying close attention, and her comments quickly became the subject of speculation. During reunion specials and Instagram lives, she made statements that many viewers interpreted as veiled shots. One in particular became unforgettable. "Some of y'all sitting up here acting like y'all got perfect marriages. But if your husband's phone ever got unlocked, the truth would destroy your brand." That one line ignited a firestorm online. Fans immediately began guessing who she was referring to, and many assumed it was aimed at Mauro Scott, especially since, around that same time, an old photo resurfaced of him on a guy's trip, a trip that had already sparked tension between the couples. From there, gossip blogs and YouTube commentators ran wild, churning out headlines like "Is Mauro Scott cheating?" and "Shari exposes Mauro." Each new post fueled the narrative further. And while Melody never confirmed any rumor outright, her silence, paired with subtle smirks and cryptic responses like "the truth always comes out," only intensified the speculation. For her fans, it was a sign that she was simply telling hard truths. But for LaTisha, it felt like betrayal, a series of small, calculated jabs that chipped away at the image of her family, one insinuation at a time. For Melody's supporters, her cryptic smiles and subtle responses were proof that she knew more than she was letting on. But to her critics, those same gestures suggested something more calculated, that she was fueling the fire while keeping her hands clean. Through it all, LaTisha remained steadfast by her husband's side, repeatedly insisting the rumors were false and that she trusted Mauro completely. Mauro, too, publicly denied every accusation, calling them baseless and claiming people were simply trying to tarnish their family's reputation. Yet that's the tricky thing about public perception. Once a rumor takes off online, it often stops being a rumor and starts being treated as truth. What may have begun as speculation quickly snowballed into a narrative too loud to control. Before long, it was everywhere, on fan pages, gossip sites, comment sections, and even in interviews with other cast members. The blogs amplified every moment between Melody and LaTisha, dissecting their every move. If Melody rolled her eyes during a reunion, it became "Melody throws shade at Mauro." If LaTisha sidestepped a question about fidelity, it turned into "LaTisha dodges affair rumors." Every look, every pause, every line became headline material. But here's where the story takes an interesting twist. Some insiders have suggested that Melody may not have started the rumors at all. According to them, whispers about Mauro's alleged behavior were already circulating behind the scenes. Melody simply had the platform and the boldness to hint at what others only whispered about. So was she stirring the pot, or was she just refusing to maintain a false image for TV? That's the gray area that still divides fans today. On one hand, Melody insists she's always spoken her truth, even when it's uncomfortable. But on the other hand, LaTisha believes Melody crossed a line, that she took her own pain and weaponized it, projecting her marital wounds onto everyone else around her. And the consequences were devastating. Once fans picked sides, every episode turned into a showdown. Every Instagram post became a debate, and the whispers about Maro's alleged affair refused to fade. Instead, they grew louder, echoing through social media until even the Scott children couldn't escape them. But just when everyone thought they knew where to point the blame, a surprising new theory began circulating online. Some fans started to wonder if the real spark behind the rumors wasn't Melody, or even the gossip blogs, but Maro himself. Could it be that something he said or did off-camera had given the speculation life? That possibility turned the entire conversation on its head. Because in the world of reality TV, silence can be just as revealing as words, and Maro's silence became its own mystery. His calm demeanor, occasional smirks, and carefully worded statements only fueled more curiosity. From the very beginning, Maro has firmly denied every accusation, insisting that he's a loyal husband and that the rumors are nothing more than attempts to tear down his image. He's often said that being on television automatically makes you a target, that success attracts scrutiny. But for fans watching closely, it wasn't always what Maro said that raised eyebrows, it was how he said it. Only made things worse. The moment was brief, but fans noticed everything. The hesitation in his voice, the way he looked away, the tension that filled the room. When asked where he'd been during that earlier guys' trip, Maro didn't give a straight answer. Instead, he shifted in his seat, cracked a half smile, and brushed it off as old news. But for viewers already skeptical, that vague reaction spoke volumes. It's moments like these that have made fans question not just the rumors themselves, but Maro's entire approach to handling them. His pattern is consistent: laugh it off, make a joke, or steer the conversation somewhere safer. At reunions, he often responds to serious accusations with sarcasm, leaving audiences unsure whether he's being clever or simply avoiding the truth. Take his now famous line, "If I ever cheated, there'd be proof. And since there isn't, that tells you all you need to know." It sounded slick, even confident. But for many viewers, it wasn't the reassurance they wanted, it was a deflection. He never outright said, "I didn't cheat." Instead, he leaned on technicalities, on the absence of evidence, which to many felt like dodging rather than denying. Then there's his humor. When Maro once joked that men don't cheat, they just do field research, it might have been intended as harmless banter. But the internet didn't see it that way. The clip spread like wildfire, becoming a meme and turning field research into a running joke at his expense. LaTisha defended him, insisting it was just his way of easing tension. Yet for fans, especially those who'd followed Melody's painful story, it came off as insensitive, even mocking. By the time the Vegas trip footage aired, the damage was done. Every smirk, every pause, every joke became evidence in the court of public opinion. And no matter how many times Maro denied wrongdoing, the more he tried to charm his way through the accusations, the less people seemed to believe him. What started as whispers about infidelity had spiraled into a full-blown storm, one that LaTisha found herself battling largely on her own. While she poured her heart out online, insisting that people were tearing down a good man and a strong marriage, Maro's calm detachment told a different story. His easy smile, his quick jokes, and his refusal to show frustration became a double-edged sword. To some, it was the mark of a man confident in his truth. To others, it was the classic demeanor of someone with something to hide. That infamous Vegas trip only magnified the tension. When Maro dodged questions about what really happened that night, fans were left filling in the blanks. His refusal to deny or confirm anything, just that sly grin, became the spark that reignited every rumor. In the court of public opinion, silence often speaks louder than confession. And Maro's silence became a symbol of mystery, arrogance, or guilt, depending on who you asked. Social media took it and ran. Every clip of him laughing, every pause before answering, every smirk became meme material. Captions like "he knows something" or "that's a guilty smile if I've ever seen one" flooded timelines. Before long, perception had hardened into belief. Even without proof, the narrative wrote itself. Maro was unbothered because he had something to hide. For LaTisha, it was devastating. She stood firm in her loyalty, passionately defending her husband against an online army that seemed determined to doubt him. But as Maro continued to meet serious allegations with humor and charm, her frustration grew. Fans could feel it, the exhaustion of a woman trying to protect a marriage that her partner treated like a running joke. In the end, what hurt most wasn't just the rumors, it was the feeling that Maro's pride and playful demeanor made everything worse. Because while LaTisha was fighting to protect her family's name, Maro seemed content to laugh through the chaos, unaware that his calm confidence was slowly becoming the very thing that made people stop believing him. Behind the cameras, the situation was reportedly far more painful than what fans saw on screen. Sources close to the couple revealed that LaTisha's frustration had reached a breaking point. She wanted peace, a chance to move forward and rebuild her family's image, but every time Maro laughed off the allegations, it felt like reopening a wound that never had time to heal. What hurt even more was that their private struggles had become public entertainment. Every argument, every awkward glance, every statement was dissected by viewers who had already picked sides. By now, the fan base was completely divided. Team Melody and Team LaTisha turned the drama into a digital war zone, each convinced their favorite was telling the truth. But in all that noise, the hashtags, reaction videos, and endless debates, one thing was clear. Both women were hurting, and both families were being torn apart under the spotlight. And just when it seemed the situation had reached its peak, a new wave of rumors began to surface. Whispers suggesting that maybe, just maybe, there was more truth to the cheating allegations than anyone wanted to admit. Some claimed to have proof, screenshots, messages, even alleged sightings of Maro with another woman. But like most online scandals, no one could say for sure if these so-called receipts were authentic or just another case of the internet spinning fantasy into fact.